For more on this issue, I want to welcome on Helen Raleigh, a senior contributor for the Federalist, a conservative online magazine. So Helen, when we look at this issue right now, I mean, it wasn't too long ago where we were talking about impeachment, and then it was coronavirus, and now it's police and protests. So it's kind of hard to determine what the big issue will be come November. But acknowledging where we are right now, what do you think will be on voters' minds when they go to the ballot box in November?
Thank you for having me. I think there are two big issues on voters' mind coming to November. First is economy that we do not talk about very often. Americans do not have a job, and our 30 million Americans are on unemployment. So economy is definitely high on agenda for voters' mind. The second is definitely safety. So there are two sub-subjects for the safety. One is the safety from the coronavirus, the pandemic, and second is the safety from riots and violence that we have seen the last couple of weeks.
And we do see a little bit of a more shift in tone regarding the coronavirus pandemic. The White House task force is once again starting those briefings today, meaning that they want to at least get information out, if not control the messaging to the American people. But I do want to focus on the police and protests, because I know that you've been covering this pretty extensively. What does the Trump administration have to do during this moment in order to just get a grasp on this situation? Or should they just take a more hands-off approach and demonstrate what happens if they don't take action?
No, Alex, I believe the president really need to contrast his policy in terms of how he fulfill the government obligation to provide and protect Americans. So he needs to show that his government is for law and order. I talk to many liberal friends, and it doesn't matter whether you're liberal or conservative. You know, we are sick to our stomach about what happened to George Floyd, and we want justice for him and his family. But at the same time, we are sick and tired of riots and violence and the destruction of small businesses, which are the engine of growth for, again, we talk about bringing the economy back. You know, America has suffered a great deal this spring from the cooked up because of the virus and now a broken economy. So we really need law and order. People need to feel safe so we can bring our economy to raise our family again.
And I think you're exactly right, because polls show exactly what you're saying. I mean, a lot of this country is sympathetic with protest and police reforms, but as soon as you get into the realm of rioting and looting, that is something that they overwhelmingly reject. And nowadays, in today's media atmosphere, I feel like a lot of networks want to both sides this issue. Say, well, there are protests, but or there are riots, I should say, but that's not to say that they're extremely violent or anything like that. Whereas the average American doesn't necessarily care. As soon as someone starts throwing bricks through windows or stealing from community neighborhoods and businesses, they outright reject that. And now a lot of Democrats are put in a position where, because they're so anti-Trump, they have to defend that type of behavior. So what hurdles does Joe Biden have while the president is making that very argument that you're saying regarding law and order?
Well, I don't know if Joe Biden can overcome this hurdle because if you look at his current campaign policies, it seems like he's overtaken by the radical left, and whether it's his economic policies as well as his talk about the racial justice policies. I don't know if Joe Biden can overcome those hurdles, but if he really wants to win in November, he needs to come strong with a better economy policies to tell American people how he can bring the economy back, and he also needs to tell us how he can protect us, bring law and order. So far, he's short on both fronts.
And I think that he's trying to play it both ways right now. For example, we saw him say that he doesn't want to defund the police, but then when he's pressed on that issue, he says he wants to redistribute funds away from the police, which a lot of people would say is essentially the very same thing. At some point, does Joe Biden have to decide whether he wants to appease the moderate part of the Democratic Party or the progressive wing of the Democratic Party and risk losing voters on either side?
Right. I just think you just hit the nail right on the head. That's Joe Biden's biggest problem is he's a flip-flop. You know, he has no convictions. So that just shows, he wants to play both sides. You know, whichever the wind direction the wind blows, he'll take a position. So we do not want a future president who does not have a conviction, who cannot protect American people, and who cannot help us revise the economy, who just gonna nod his head whichever the way the wind blows. And Joe Biden, if you look at his public records, he had very weak policies and the public service records, to speak for itself. So this is a hurdle he cannot overcome.
I think you're right. And I think when we get to debates, too, that's where this issue is really going to become more evident for a lot of Americans, because you can't play both sides during a 3-hour debate, facing questions not only from a moderator, but pushback from your challenger as well, that being of President Trump. I know that he's not going to let a lot of these issues slide, the same way that I know the Biden campaign is going to make sure that Joe Biden's prepared for those debates as well. But the American people are really going to be the ones who will see through some of the talking points in order to make their decision. I think you're right for saying that. But Helen Raleigh, I really appreciate you coming on tonight, breaking down this issue for us. Thank you.